Hi everyone, welcome back to Orchid 101. So today we're going to talk about roots, spikes, flowers, and in my example, to explain this a little bit better to you guys, I chose the Phalaenopsis orchids just because I feel like they're the easiest to explain when it comes to orchids. They're also the easiest ones to see and to find when people go out and buy orchids, especially for beginners. So if you guys noticed, I did make a video on the orchid that I best can recommend for beginners when it comes to which orchid to select as a beginner, and which one would be the best for you to start off with. I will link that video down below for you to go back and reference, but I've gone ahead and selected the Phalaenopsis orchid for this video because I just feel like it's the easiest one to physically visualize, and just because it has all the aspects that an orchid needs to physically see everything that I want to show you guys today. So as you guys can see here on the table, I have a few of my Phalaenopsis that are just kind of going through different stages in their growing periods, and I just want to use them to give you a little bit of an example of different areas of the plant itself, and we're just going to go through them real quick one by one, and I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about different areas. Now I'm gonna go into this because I am in other groups on Facebook for orchid lovers and orchid for beginners and stuff like that, and I've seen a lot of questions come through, and I just feel like maybe with a video it may answer a lot of questions for beginners that may need help to start off with their orchids. So let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully this video will help out a lot of you that have a lot of questions about why orchids grow the way that they do, and why things happen to them from time to time. So let's go ahead and get started, and don't forget at the end of the video, like and subscribe, and also follow me on Facebook. I do have my own group, and hopefully I'll see you there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with this first Phalaenopsis here. Now, you guys may have seen this one in some of my other videos. I did include this one in a video where it started to have some botrytis here on the flowers, the little green spots, and that's from watering it during the cold season with cold water. So it is getting a little bit better, so hopefully towards the spring and summer it will start clearing up. But this is your normal Phalaenopsis that you find just in the regular flower shops or in the grocery stores or your local garden stores, your regular Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that. Pretty healthy, bright green leaves, very stiff, standing upright, a few flowers, the spike, everything looks very, very, very normal with it. So just a very typical Phalaenopsis orchid that you would find anywhere pretty much. This is what they would mostly all look like. Now, let's just go into a little bit more of the questionable one. Another Phalaenopsis orchid, very healthy, green leaves, very stiff, standing upright, beautiful flowers, has some few buds that have not bloomed yet, but will bloom here shortly. But oh my God, what is that stuff coming out of my orchid's pot? I'm just gonna cut them. No, these are roots. These are aerial roots. I saw and heard of people actually cutting these away because they did not know what they were. If your pot or your orchid is showing that your aerial roots are starting to come out, this is totally okay. If your aerial roots are white and silvery, all they need is a little bit of water, and you can just take your spray bottle, your mister, and just mist them a little bit, and as soon as they turn green, like this color here, they will be okay again. Do not cut the aerial roots. Cutting any roots from your Phalaenopsis orchid, or any orchid for that matter, will leave open wounds on your orchid and will leave an ease of access for bacteria to get in, for pests to get in, for other malicious things to get into your orchid and start affecting the crown, the spike, the flowers, and you don't want that. So if you see these, they are totally normal. If you see a lot of them, most likely that's your orchid telling you, hey, I'm outgrowing my pot. I think it's time for you to put me in something bigger. So aerial roots are totally okay. If you see them come out, that actually means your orchid is growing very, very nicely. The more roots your orchid grows, the better it is. Sorry about that, I was interrupted. So as I was saying, aerial roots are a good thing. It's your orchid telling you, I'm growing healthy. I have roots that do not fit in the pot anymore. Perhaps you should just try to pot me into a bigger pot. Don't cut them. They're really, really good. Your orchid is doing very healthy. So don't touch them. Just mist them, spray them. Gray silver means they need water. Next example. Your blooms have started to fall. Oh no, what am I doing wrong? Oh no, they look withered. They're starting to fall. They don't look happy. They look sad. You're not doing anything wrong whatsoever. This is completely normal. Flowers are not supposed to last forever. You will get blooms for about a month, maybe 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky. I have seen blooms even last 6 months. Totally up to the plant and the way you take care of it. But if your blooms begin to wither and fall, that's totally normal. It's nothing to worry about. Your blooms will begin to fall, and that is okay. Once your bloom falls, your spike will be spent. That means that no more blooms will grow on that spike. That is the norm. However, we'll go into another example where I'll show you something completely different. Your spike will be spent, and then you can cut the spike down and hope for a new spike to grow. So again, if your blooms begin to fall and or they look sad and they look like they are about to die, do not be worried, do not be alarmed. It is perfectly fine. Don't cut the blooms either. If you see a bloom like this that looks like it's dying or looks like it's already dried on the spike, don't go ahead and cut it yourself. Just let it simply fall on its own. It will eventually fall. But do not be alarmed. Everything is okay with it. Just make sure you're still taking care of the orchid as you normally would. Next season, you will get new blooms again, hopefully, and everything will be okay. Now, this last example I'm going to give you is after your blooms have died or they've fallen from the spike and your spike is spent. You can do one or two things. You can go ahead and cut the spike all the way down to the end of the crown and hope for a new flower spike to come out. That's the norm. That's fine, because you want to go ahead and remove anything that's going to be detrimental to the orchid or have the orchid use up too much energy. However, the other thing that you can do, and that's normally what I like to do, depending on how I see that the orchid is doing. If I have an orchid that's very healthy, very green, the root system looks really healthy, and I just see that she is performing to her highest capacity, I will not cut the spike down to the crown. I will just simply cut the spike to where I see that she may have a new node. And what a node is the beginning of what could possibly be a new flower spike. So once these flowers were already spent, I went ahead and cut the spike a few inches before the new node, and I got this result. And what this is a new flower spike beginning to grow. And out of this new flower spike, you will get new blooms from the old flower spike. I did the same thing with this one. This orchid was doing very, very well, so I went ahead and just cut a few inches before the new node. I don't know if you guys can see it there. And from that new node, I got a new flower spike. So you can do that. That is an option. But like I said, if you see that the orchid itself is struggling and your leaves are not doing very well, and your root system is not doing very well, and it's just struggling, my advice would be to cut the flower spike once the flowers are spent, and once the flower spike is spent, is to cut it down to the all the way to the bottom, in order to help the orchid recover in those areas that are important, so that she can again produce a new flower spike and produce new flowers. Because if you leave the old flower spike, she's going to use up all of her energy to try to maintain that flower spike and keep that flower spike alive. And that energy should really be focused and used on recovering those roots and those leaves that she's struggling with. But in my cases here, both of these orchids were doing very well down here. So the flower spikes, I just cut them down to the node. And if all goes well, like how it happened here, you will get a new flower spike. And eventually, I'll show you this one again, you will start getting those little buds, like right here, that will become the blooms. So these are just a few tips that I have. Now, I'm not a professional. I am not a pro at orchid growing, by no means. I'm also learning like you guys on a day-to-day basis. I learn all kinds of new things from different people, but these are just the tips that I have learned along the way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I can teach you guys a little bit of what I know, and I hope it's beneficial for all of you new beginners that are starting to learn about orchids or have started your own collection. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned in the beginning, like and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook. I've linked the link down below for my Facebook group. Thank you again. Bye-bye.